4 years ago, Lycoming College's music department moved from the Clarke Chapel to the Clarke Music Center. But what has this change meant for the music department? And why is the chapel still here?
Clarke Chapel had only recently become the music department when I came in 1979. I can still remember that during my interview, they were jackhammering what became the chapel. I can still remember my very first thought when I walked into the upstairs chapel, which was, wow, a really nice Georgian-style chapel with a high school stage. Why did they do that?
When I walked in the building, it seemed so dilapidated. The carpet was coming off from the floor. And one of the first things that I was shown was my potential office.
Character is the word that keeps coming to mind. The building had a lot of character for music making, some of it quite inspiring.
As far as the teaching music in there, it was always challenging from the sound perspective because things bled over.
So it was impossible to do something like a dictation in music theory where you're writing down what you hear, because not only are you hearing what the professor's playing, but you're hearing everything going on around you. The flute lesson in the room next door, the tuba lesson upstairs, someone practicing in the basement. It was like 360-degree sound.
And we did our best to try to make that stage look like more than a high school. We changed the lighting. We got new drapes. We tried to fix it up as much as we could.
In fact, I remember one time in my early years here that I was going to town upstairs playing my tuba, and Dr. Burkle came running up, and he asked me to not play while he was teaching his class, which of course I get it, because I was teaching classes too.
Before the rehearsal, you would hear the room like kind of groan, or it was almost like a mythological creature. I would be downstairs in my office, and you would hear this groaning and rumbling upstairs, and it was all the chairs moving, because every time there was choir, they had to change the chairs from band, and then every time it was band, they had to take down the risers from choirs.
You know those windows at the back of the auditorium? I always had to open them, because if I left them closed, nobody could tell I was playing 16th notes.
It seems like I bring up a lot of the negative things about it, because there were a lot of negative things musically. You know, it was too loud. You know, it might have been nice for a choir. You know, you could fill that space up with a choir. But when you get a band or an orchestra that's really cranky, it hurts.
For the music department to flourish, the chapel required constant maintenance.
And then I remember Bill Chebetari saying to me afterwards, like, don't look too closely, or we just got the carpet reinstalled, or something. He was super proud of something that had been updated, and was also sort of apologizing for the building. Like, it was kind of it's an old relic, but we're making the best of it.
Once I decided to take the job here when it was offered, it was in my mind that the chapel needed to have some improving, done to it for sure. And there's only so much that I could do. Because everything, costs money. But by that point, they'd already fixed the wall and all the things that were the first impressions that were bad. They went in and fixed all that stuff. So little by little, I think we started changing cosmetic things in the teaching area.
We brought in things like the New York City Opera, the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, Broadway shows, operas, and nobody from the college, no student, no faculty, no administration, ever paid anything to go to those events. I was very proud of that.
Despite the department's efforts, the chapel's issues went beyond looks.
I think I didn't understand all the ways I could get around that building for at least 7 years.
At that point, I was the only female in the department, and so females would seek me out asking for directions to the ladies' room, and I just got very good at the let me walk you there version, instead of, well, you're going to go up this stair and then turn right, and then those stairs and then turn left. And
there seems to be a resident bat family that seems to come back every once in a while, and interrupt a concert here and there.
The loft, by the way, was full of pigeon feathers. All kinds of pigeons had gotten in there and died over the years.
During COVID-19, the administration under President Clarke announced the construction of a new music center.
But it was on their mind that, this building isn't going to help, music grow. Because of the limitations of it, the sound bleeding, and the problems that are there, the lack of handicap access.
The announcement of it as a priority despite the pandemic and all the things that were shutting down, I think we were most surprised to hear that it was still a priority to the administration to build a center for live music making when we weren't even allowed to be making music together in that time. It was an incredible boost of confidence.
By fall of 2022, the Track Team Music Center was built and is now the new home of the music department. The changes were immediate and obvious.
One of the nice things here is we can rehearse choir and orchestra together, no problem. That is a hard thing to do in Clarke Chapel.
For me personally, this space where I can teach another pianist side by side at two pianos, there just wasn't the cubic space for that in the chapel for two pianos.
The thing that's making the biggest difference is the amount of natural light that comes in this space. It's just a very different vibe. It's hard to be melancholy perpetually.
But something keeps drawing students and faculty back to the chapel.
I think people still like being on the stage in the chapel space proper, that it's resonant. It's especially flattering for strings and voices because of its resonance.
It felt grounded to something historically important, and I think that's what I liked about it. So every time I went in there, I felt like I was walking into a space where things were going on that were important to people on a daily basis. And so I felt some sort of connection to it. So Clarke Chapel's been at the heart of everything since we've been Lycoming College.
A good building, whether it's a home or a school, is supposed to, if at its best, change you when you walk into it. Clarke, for all its shortcomings, it felt like you were in a performance space.
Clarke Chapel still receives attention every year, from the candlelight service in the winter to baccalaureate in the spring, both past and present.
When I picture the chapel, I really do picture it's almost like a Christmas card that's come to life. You can see the winter scene outside, the glow of the candles inside, people coming into the warmth. I remember practicing in there one time when it was snowing outside and thinking, this is just the most beautiful moment I've ever had practicing, most beautiful setting.
Literally, when I released the last note, I slammed my baton on the stand, like a mic drop sort of thing before mic drop was a thing. And everybody felt so good.
And I can still remember a dear friend who took me by the shoulders as we were getting ready to go do the performance, and she said, "Now, you remember, you're doing this to have a good time. Have a good time." It was wonderful. Everybody sang their hearts out. The orchestra sounded great. It was a thoroughly professional thing. And my wife was playing the lead woman, which she had done as a student. Everybody on the stage was an old friend. And when I looked to my left, there is my 3-year-old daughter sitting on her grandfather's lap, watching me conduct the orchestra. And I remember thinking, this may be the greatest moment of my life.
Now, Track Team Music Center allows for brand new experiences and community collaboration.
The Williamsport Symphony is rehearsing here on a regular basis. The youth orchestra is rehearsing here. Williamsport Flute Choir started rehearsing here this semester. The idea that we're able to be of service to our companion music groups in the area is very satisfying. We're not able to do that at Clarke Chapel. It's just acoustically not viable.
Current students in Lycoming College's music department may not have spent much time in Clarke Chapel, but its legacy lives on through the Track Team Music Center and through every student who has ever and will ever perform on a stage.